Hello and welcome, Hopper Commander players. With me today, I have the infamous, famous Dallas Walker, known for the Richest to Rags tournament held in Philly, the two Richest to Rags tournaments. I wanted to bring them in today because we both share this goal to get our beloved format into the LGSs, into a tournament structure. And the only person that I can think of at the moment that has this much experience is Dallas Walker. So why not bring them on and have them coach us through the items that we need to get these tournaments rolling quickly, easily, efficiently. Let's make it happen. Dallas, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate getting the chance to be here, Clay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm a person at an LGS with some authority, maybe not without with the authority. Maybe a person who knows the logistics of the LGS, or the owner or the manager or what have you. How do we get started?
Yeah, so I had the idea for this come up to me 2 years ago. We had like a budget gift exchange in the community. It's primarily EDH here, like just about everybody else. And the rules were like $20 uncommon commander. But then I took it a step further because I've been a pauper player my entire life, basically. And I was like, well, let's just have all the cards be commons. And then around that time, I also heard that there was like a formalized version of this format. And so I built somebody a deck. It was Dina Soulsteeper, and it was really great. I had tons of old Thalids and Spore cards from like Alliances and Fallen Empires. And I liked the deck so much, I was like, wow, I'm going to build my own, and I'm going to, make mine better and bling it out. And then, but I only have one, so I'm going to build, 3 more so that my deck has a pod to play against, and I'll just offer it to people around me who want to give it a shot. And then I was like, these decks suck. I want to do this even harder to its absolute limits. And then I made like a cPDH deck, and I was like, oh wait, but this deck doesn't have a pod to play against now because it's just demolishing all of the other decks that I've built so far. And so I built a cPDH pod in my collection. And the grand total of all of this probably cost me, I don't know, $300 for 2 full pods worth, at like a casual and like a competitive price scale. So there was one pauper commander deck in Philadelphia, as far as I'm aware. Before that point, and just another one of our community members who had heard about it at one point. And then I built my 8, and then a couple more. And now the count of PDH decks in Philadelphia that by my count is like roughly 50 to 60. So in that years of time, that's the kind of growth that I was able to manifest through very meager resources and just a dedication to the game, and having a friendly face and caring about people and being a little creative. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. So getting the decks into the community, getting the vibe into the community probably did, made some ground. Yeah, made some ground into convincing the store owner to, take the lead.
I am the store owner in this instance, but so that's convenient for me, but you absolutely don't need to be someone of a position. There's other formats in our area that people have taken my advice on. I don't want to talk about them because I feel like my goal is to get Pauper and Pauper Commander more mind share. And I feel like talking about other formats kind of detracts from that. But that's like a me thing. And they've also found success with that for themselves. So it's clearly a formula that works, and anybody can do it.
Sweet. Okay. So we have the people, we have the will, we have the vibe. So are there requirements? Like if you want to host a tournament, what are some of the necessary items?
Yeah. Let's approach this. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you can replicate what I have done wherever you are, regardless of your resources or your position socially in the community. You could be someone. My goal is to have walked into a new town you just moved and show up on day one with a Pauper Commander pod, knowing nobody, and growing that community into at least enough people to support like a 16 to 32 person tournament bi-monthly or whatever it is, to your dedication level in a year. And I think that's totally doable, and I think everybody can do it. I think the absolute 100% bare minimum cost to execute this is going to be fully proxying all of your decks, having the card sleeves to hold them, and then like the transportation box, and then going forward, if there's any kind of an event type dynamic, sometimes those types of events require resources, and how can we skirt them if possible? Because we want to keep this price point down as low as possible.
You bring up an interesting point, something that I haven't done. What you can't see behind the TARDIS here is
Sure.
I've got 10 boxes full of cards from over the years. So anything I don't have, I also just order, that sort of thing. So have you looked at a little bit of a price comparison between the average purchase card versus the average proxied card? Like what does that look like by comparison?
Well, the lowest cost that most people will find for an individual card single, regardless of rarity or power, is probably going to be about 25 cents. That is primarily a logistical cost that's imposed by the fact that it's a physical product that has to be stored. It takes up physical space, and it requires human hours to catalog and become made available for the public. Whereas if you look online, Magic Online, many commons in the game are 1 penny, because you can hold an infinite number of cards in your digital collection, and they are instantly available to literally everybody on the planet, albeit one person at a time as they're doing the trade with you. That's one aspect of it, but the other is you can actually just buy bulk for significantly lower than the 1 penny per card price point. So, if you wanted to start with, say, like, I don't know, $10 for 1,000 cards, that would, at the very minimum, give you all of the physical card requirements that you need. Because even if you're going to print out all of your decks, you still need a physical card to occupy the sleeve slot and give the paper printout something to hold on to, so that it still is
Rigid.
formed and behaves physically just like a normal deck would, which I believe holistically is a reasonable expectation to expect for the budget-minded player to offer to the other opponents who are expecting to play like a natural Magic experience when they sit down at the table with you.
Righteous. So I, coming from a cEDH background, I am pro proxy all the way. Like,
yes, I would like to not spend $600 on a Sarah's Sanctum. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't much care to put people through the hoops or the ringer or what have you. Like print the damn card, bring it to the table. Let's see what you do with it. I don't care, how real it is. So
yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so we've got cardstock covered. What about tournament structure? Do you need personnel? Do you need equipment? Do you need software? What does that look like?
So first up, we'll finish the decks that we have, right? You can go to places like Moxfield, and they have a button on the tab down the expansion menu in your deck list to get proxies. And then you can just print those off, sleeve them up. Your decks are good to go. Go to your LGS with them. Say, hey, I heard about this really awesome format. I have all the decks here for everyone to give it a shot. Why don't you give it a try? Or if people aren't okay, if you don't have enough people to fill a pod like that, then having one cEDH cPDH deck on you, like I would recommend a Tatiova Is It Guild Mage kind of combo deck, a deck that's capable of winning any game more or less, regardless of how the other people play, and to play at regular EDH tables and try and win those. Obviously, fully discussing the type of deck that you're running in the first place and making sure that everyone's comfortable. Losing to a deck that's like more combo oriented, as I understand many casual players aren't. But in any event, that's the tack that I did concurrently with having my battle pod or battle box, you could say. I had several competitive decks that I would sit down at tables, and like my Tatiova deck or my Abdel Adrian or my personal design, like the Lavon, so Sword Coast Sailor deck, and just be like, yeah, you're a big boy deck. You got big boy cards and you're dead. So yeah, would you like to pay attention to my format now? And Philadelphia is a particularly receptive city to that because there are a lot of people that aren't afraid of a challenge, aren't afraid like of some adversity and some strife. And so, you beat their ass, they respect you a little bit more.
Yep.
So, not everybody's that way, but I appreciate that aspect of Philadelphia. I'm not a native Philadelphia. I'm from Texas originally.
I can hear it.
Oh no, my goal has been for that to not be the case. But yeah, no, it worked out really well for me. And so you just have to listen to people and read people and understand what they're looking for. Because I've had people sit down and play a mid-range aristocrat PDH deck, and it kind of dirtled on them, and they didn't really feel like they did much in the game, and it kind of turned them off for a long time, right? So it is possible to fail, or to have setbacks based on real-world experiences. And that's just something that you learn over time and talking to your other community members. I'm on Discord basically every waking moment. So, if you have any,
must push the drug.
yeah. I'm just trying to make something happen. For the first time in my life, at this point, I feel like you're
doing a great job
in a community where I'm doing something useful, and that's been very energizing for me. So yeah, no, I naturally just want to engage with everybody and have conversations and kind of progress everyone's collective understanding of my vision for the game and the format and the world, because I think it's pretty good.
Okay,
yeah, so that's our goal. So we got the decks in people's hands.
Yep.
We got the interest. You're gonna want to encourage them to build their own decks. Get excited about it yourself. Make sure that you have all of the access to the PDH home-based Discord available to you. I would even maybe go so far as to say print out a QR code for the invite, and if you have the means to get it laminated or cut out into a card-sized sleeve and just put it in a sleeve so you can just flash it at people and be like, here, jump on the server right now.
Yep.
There's people there literally 24/7 having so many arguments over nuanced card choices for their pet mid-level PDH deck.
And for the record, every single one of them are correct.
No, yeah, no, everyone's correct. There's no objectively correct decision for any scenario. So that's just one of the appeals of the format and the community that we have. So you're going to do that, and then naturally people are going to be interested because Magic players like to optimize and customize and personalize. And once they do that, they kind of get attached to things and want to be personally invested. You can talk to the person running your local game store, or if you don't have a local game store, if you're playing in a library or a bar or a restaurant, just talk to the manager. It's free to use words. And you don't have to worry about being imposing or not seeming professional enough or whatever. Just talk. It's fine. I promise. And say hey, I have this group of people who are really interested in this type of playing this game. And we're looking for space. What do you have for us? And just trying to look at it from the perspective of there is always going to be a way to meet your goal. It's just a matter of time and navigation of the adversity and challenges that you get to get to your end result. And I think as long as you kind of lock yourself into that mentality, but still be considerate for social norms and being appropriate with how you're interacting with people, you will always get to the goal. Because it's honestly not that difficult.
Right on.
So yeah, so you're going to find a way to acquire space for your event. And then that's just gonna naturally develop from there as people play the game and get interested. You're make sure you're connecting people to a centralized chat location. I know a lot of people that come to my LGS community that they just show up. I don't know how they heard about us, and they play a couple games and then they go home. And they'll do that for months if you let them. But they're not, other than occupying the seat and doing anything beyond that, they're not really optimally contributing to the community, right? Like obviously they're a person in a seat that's playing the game, which means that 3 other people that were looking for that 4th player have found it and are able to play the game. And so in that sense, literally everybody is useful in some way. But you want to get them all on a Discord server.
Engaged,
you want to get like a bulletin board wherever the business is. Get posters up there. You could literally just do text on MS DOS and print it out and staple it up there, and that's better than nothing, right? I do want to avoid trying to make too many Discord servers or Twitter groups or any of those kinds of things,
because it dilutes.
Yeah, they only serve to compartmentalize us, and we really need to work on like our union mentality as community members, right? So get them to the LGS's Discord server. If there's not one, go look for your city's gaming Discord. There probably is one. Make sure you use Facebook search for any groups through there, and just put a little effort, and I'm sure you'll find some good results.
Okay, so organizing local community. Setting the vibe, providing proxies if possible to get the people engaged and playing, regular communication about who, what, when, where, and how, and then from there you've got people ready. Let's put on a tournament. Let's say it's a what's the smallest one? 16 person? Is that the smallest?
Let's see here.
8?
I mean, it depends. You could have like maybe an 8-person tournament and have it run a lot of rounds. You could try and do something like that so that like everyone at least sees every other. Round robin for 8 people. I'm not really sure how the math works on that and how long the event would be. Either. Yeah. It would probably be a very long tournament.
Yeah.
But at least seeing each player once is probably mathematically doable in 4 games, which is basically just an afternoon and a bit of an evening of playing. When you're at that low of numbers, 8 to 16, you can do most of the pairings on paper. It's totally fine. Doesn't cost you anything. And some people will be happy just for the opportunity to play in this kind of environment. So you don't even necessarily need prizes, but you, as I can talk about here in a minute, you can use prizes to drive growth. But you have to just be judicious and careful about it, and a little clever as well.
Righteous. Okay, so at a minimum, people can get together. There's likely a number of resources online that tell you exactly. Hell, there's probably free resources that allow you just to insert names, and it'll randomize for you based on whatever organizational rule that you tell it to organize by.
So I do have to caution on that one. One of the challenges of this kind of format is that tournament matchmaking for a multiplayer 4-person Magic environment is actually mathematically kind of challenging to just do by hand. And if there is any kind of reward on the line, you want to make sure that you're never in a position where people get the feeling of impropriety or bias, or that someone's trying to cheat or game the system. And so even though it seems like, oh, we're all friends here, we can just do this and half-ass it and it'll work out. We'll do it all by hand. And if there's any confusion, we'll just write it in. However, I definitely encourage people to put the time into trying to do it right.
So do you have a preferred method that you use?
So I do, but I'm a little bit of a different scenario just by nature of the resources that I have access to, which is admittedly not very much, but the scenario that we're talking about here is someone being able to do what I have done with $0 or very close to $0. And what I have
see.
done,
So you have a paid service.
I do use a paid service. I heard wind of a piece of software being developed by the Eminence MTG group, who has put on some of the country and the world's biggest competitive EDH tournaments, having in the hundreds of players and with like $4,000, $5,000 prize pools with like tons of endorsements and big venue and lots of judges, and very, very astoundingly impressive feat for a company like theirs. And so they developed a piece of software, and they were looking for beta testers for my first tournament that I ran in October. I just networked a lot and was on Discords a lot and Twitter.
Gimme.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, I'll help you if you need it. And so then they let me use the software for free for my first tournament, which was amazing. It's so easy. I can't even talk about like how simple of a program it is to use and how many powerful tools that it has to, as I am growing my tournament size and competency of execution, and trying to offer like a more professional looking kind of experience for people. The tools that I have access to using the program are continually growing, which is really amazing. Although even if like development ceased on it like today,
it'd still be a good tool.
There's some irony there, but anyway, it would be fine just as is ad infinitum.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so,
to be fair, so there are other organizations out there. Monarch, I think, Chaos is another one. There are other organizations out there in the world that are working towards the same thing. This is no judgment on anybody's, handling of business or anything like that.
I just had to pick something for my first software, because I definitely couldn't do it by hand at 32 people.
And what these programs give you is not only the matchmaking capability, but they also do like tiebreakers, and all of that is built into it's in the sauce, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you're
so there
paying
are multiple
for.
solutions.
Yeah.
So Eminence, like you mentioned, Monarch. I'm not really sure if Chaos has their own software or if they're using someone else's. Yeah. But yeah, Monarch has a free bot that you can download the source material for, and it's a Discord bot, and you can easily disseminate pairings and registration to players that are in your Discord community very simply. So it's great for digital tournaments that we can maybe talk about at some point, but it's also perfectly usable for in-person tournaments as well. So that's definitely an option.
You need a person. You need a person manning or operating the computer or laptop that all the information.
You do need to have a tournament organizer. For me, that's just me because I'm the most passionate person here that wants to make sure that it happens. So it's unfortunate that like I can't really participate in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing just because it would be improper for me to play in a tournament where there's money on the line that I'm also hosting. Operating. It's just a no-go. So that was like one of my reasonings for getting into this in the first place and starting to do this, because like there was no tournaments for it. I was like, I want to win tournaments. So because I never really had the opportunity to pursue professional Magic or any other kind of gaming when I was young, because I'm not as wizened as you, but I'm also quite old. And so, those things just didn't exist 30 years ago.
Right.
So my justification is like, I'm going to create the seed so that other people can share it. And then once they build up their communities and start having their own tournaments, I can go and crush people at them. So that's my funny little joke history that I have for this.
So having put on a couple thus far, do you have any sage words of advice regarding in tournament like rules, like things like concessions? Do you like the conduct of the tournament itself? It's going on. Everybody's playing intently. Sometimes tippers flare, and you might have to have personnel, intervene with judgment calls and that sort of thing. Do you have any advice with game day or tournament day, how to handle like certain things?
Mhm. So I'm lucky in that my position as a store operator here in Philadelphia, by and large, gives me a lot of social currency to
Mm,
use in navigating these issues. I find it a lot easier to take a position of neutrality when day in and day out people come to my store and see me performing
mm,
my job in the community and being an adjudicator for conflict and a voice of like neutrality and reason and compassion for people.
mm,
So when I get into these scenarios, it's a lot easier because I'm friends with all of these people. It's not like, the casual player might be friends with players A and B, but C and D, they had a negative game with one time and, they're like, whatever. They're a little wary of them. And then that
right.
can spark some sort of like conflict. Whereas like basically everybody likes me. So I mean, at least as far as they've told me to my face and interact with me. So that makes it a lot easier for me. For you and your community, I definitely recommend that you become extraordinarily good friends, if possible, with your nearest level 2 judge, because that is the point of the path of being a judge that I feel like it starts going meaningfully beyond just the raw mechanics of the game and how to run a tournament, and more of like, okay, we've been doing this for about 20 years now as a collection
Mm,
of competitive professional judges. And we understand now that there are aspects about this game and competitive tournament environments that go beyond the rules of the
mm,
game, like human problems.
mm-hmm,
And we have to collectively learn and discuss and iterate on ourselves collectively to try and solve those problems and develop best practices for environments that are so uniquely social and chaotic that best practices cannot possibly be codified for. And so I really respect that community for the amount of effort that they put into having
because it's
intense
all
discussions with,
volunteer.
amongst
Yeah,
themselves. It's volunteer,
mostly.
but they get paid.
Yeah.
Um,
If they
you
get
know,
paid. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so forth. So definitely respect that, and in line with the cultural shift of wanting to pay people for their labor
Mm-hmm.
and respecting the effort that they give you from like a commercial level, like artists and such. I would also say the same of judges in our community. We definitely need to be respecting them and making sure that they're paid for their efforts, if at all possible,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I mean, I just really can't speak to how important experience is. And your experience playing the game is not equal to the experience someone has had, like for, judging events across multiple states for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's the
Right on.
first thing, right? Because that they're going to have the skill, the social skill to reliably navigate these kinds of social
Mm-hmm.
problems because they have been in a professional context where they have been required to do so. Whereas, the average player who, they have their personal, how do you say, responsibility to themselves and wanting to be seen as a good member of the community,
Yep.
but sometimes that goes awry, right? But if there's someone who like their job depends on it, that's just more of a reason for them to stick to their morals. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So we've got building the community. We've got supplying the masses either on the cheap or on the real.
Hmm.
We've got building up a fervor, organizing the community and communication and getting that together. We've got talking to your LGS owner or manager or what have you if you don't have the luxury of being that person. The software or other items, whether it's on paper, which I agree with Dallas. I am no mathematician, and plus, providing a little professional distance between you and, that process probably is not a bad idea from an organizational standpoint. Um, Staffing, like depending on how large your event is, you might have to call a couple of your level 2 friends, hopefully one day, right, Dallas?
Yeah, no, I would hope so.
And then from there, tournament happens. We have a winner. Any recommendations on, prize support? Do you have a formulaic approach to? Because you had made mention
So
earlier that there's a way to be smart about engaging with the public and offering prize support and that sort of thing. I was hoping you would touch on that.
Absolutely. So there's just one thing that is a little bit of a curveball that we have to talk about here. And in this scenario where we are growing our scene and looking to have an event, one of the problems that people are probably going to run into in most places is that if you are attempting to hold a tournament, your primary place of play is an LGS that is part of the WPN system, then you will not be allowed to host tournaments that allow for proxies. So, Pauper Commander is a very cheap format. My goal here is to provide a rubric for the individual to create the community with as little as money as possible. And in this example that we have talked about today, the person in this scenario, have proxied all of your decks, the decks that you're sharing with everyone. But that's not to say that the people in your community don't have the means to purchase the physical copies of the cards. If that's possible, through the means of them purchasing singles at your local gaming store, which is preferable, or going online, I recommend you use Card Kingdom. That's another way that you can circumvent that, right? But for me personally, my goal is to spread the accessibility and the free nature of access to this game to literally everybody, and that's just a personal thing. That's a personal goal for me.
Not a bad goal.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to call one mindset necessarily strictly superior to any other, but that's just the path that I have chosen. So you can choose your own path. You can try and cultivate a community where everyone still uses completely legal cards and host your tournaments and your events at your local gaming store, and that's perfectly fine. I am trying to blaze a trail for maybe a less trodden path, to give an example for people for how to be a little bit more radical in how they think about the game and get everybody on board.
Well, we should be radical about our fun, right? We should be empowered and impassioned and blazing trails about how we are wanting to have fun. And you and I, no secret that this is kind of a fun thing for us. So
yeah, absolutely. I do find a lot of satisfaction in it. Just because, I was a culinary professional for 10 years and I really didn't have any time. So I grew up playing Magic as early as 6 years old, in like 1995, 1996. And I've been playing it all this time, but I had to take a break for 10 years all through my 20s, just because of my professional career. And I just got lucky enough to get to a position where I could combine the two. And that's been amazing for me. And I am just so thankful for the opportunity to kind of find a path to wield all of the gaming experience that I've had in my life into something I don't know, hopefully sustaining at some point in the future. I'm definitely not making any money off of it right now, but
same.
Yeah, it's less stressful than having an old 70-year-old Italian man yell at me while I'm getting my ass beat behind the stove. So
I don't know if more people need to say this to one another. Dallas, I am grateful that you are in this community. I am eternally grateful. You are putting out the good work. You are doing the damn thing, and I love you for it. Really, I do. So
that means a lot, dude.
So before
we appreciate that.
Anytime. So before we wrap this up, let the people out there know, because I know there's going to be questions, and they're going to ask me, and I'd prefer they not. What are the socials? How can they get a hold of you? Smoke signals, wave a flag, what would you like?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. My tag is @GildedAdonis, as if you have a gilded lotus. I just liked the idea of the Adonis character, who's so obviously already the most beautiful thing, but to having the term gilded applied to it is usually
extra
a negative. But having weaknesses is kind of like a unique strength in and of themselves. So I like the idea of that a lot.
Sweet. And I'll of course I'll link that in the description of this video as well. Okay. All right. Hopefully we can revisit this in the future as the scene grows. That way we can ply your sage advice from your very, the space between your ears. We can love it right out of you, right into the screen of millions, hopefully millions. Right on.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, we didn't really get to go into the proxy friendly
Hmm.
type of event that I'm talking about, but the general rubric for how to get a community started is definitely there.
Hmm.
I can talk about this all day at any time. So, if we want to go into more detail about that, we can just have a second video or something like that soon.
Absolutely. Uh, right now. Okay, so this is where I plug the other thing. So this video is going to be a recorded video. It's going to be put up on cpdh.guide. That's where you're watching this right now. My man Ryan is waiting in the wings to grab Dallas's attention. They're going to talk about metagame from this last Riches to Rags. They're going to dive in deep. They're going to talk about the stuff, all the fun, gushy, yummy goodness of that wonderful tournament that got so much coverage. Love it. So you're going to see them. They're going to do a live thing. So you're actually weirdly going to see that one first before you see this one. But just know that they're somewhat oddly connected in the multiverse, metaverse, whatever. So, all right. Until the next time, friends. Dallas, thank you so very much.
Thanks, Clay. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Anytime.